One of the biggest issues on Capitol Hill is crypto regulation. Our next guest finds himself at the very center of it. And joining us right now is Brian Armstrong. He's the co-founder and CEO of Coinbeise, of course, the largest U.S. crypto exchange and a global crypto powerhouse.
여러분, 지금 미국 워싱턴에서 우리 자산의 운명을 바꿀 거대한 전쟁이 벌어지고 있습니다. 그 중심에는 바로 코인베이스의 CEO 브라이언 암스트롱이 있죠. 최근 그는 워싱턴으로 날아가 추진 중이던 시장 구조법의 심의를 사실상 잠정 중단시켰습니다. 작년에 통과된 지니어스 법안이 암호화폐의 기초를 닦았다면 이번 법안은 우리가 스테이블 코인으로 이자를 받을 수 있는지 아니면 그 수익을 고스란히 은행에 뺏겨야 하는지를 결정하는 핵심 법안이기 때문입니다. 만약에 이대로 법안이 통과됐다면 여러분은 스테이블 코인 리워드를 포기하고 다시 은행의 낮은 금리에 만족해야 했을지도 모릅니다. 은행 세력이 자신들의 기득권을 지키기 위해 이 법안에 어떤 독소 조항을 집어넣었는지, 그리고 브라이언 암스트롱이 왜 고객의 권리를 걸고 끝까지 저항했는지, 이 영상 끝까지 보지 않으시면 여러분의 소중한 수익 기회를 은행에 그대로 상납하게 될 수도 있습니다. 지금 그 긴박했던 인터뷰 현장 속으로 들어가 보시죠.
You made a big move in Washington that, by the way, everybody here in Switzerland is talking about as well, as it relates to this effort to create some kind of regulation framework around crypto. Tell us what happened exactly last week.
Yeah, so last year we got the Genius Act passed. That was a great piece of legislation for crypto. And now what everyone's working on is called market structure, the non-stablecoin crypto assets. And there's been a ton of hard work. You know, the Senate has been amazing to work with. There's a lot of constituents coming in to offer their opinion, including the crypto industry. And of course, Coinbase has a point of view, although we don't represent the crypto industry. And we saw some draft text midnight on Monday night.
Right.
Our lawyers started looking at it on Tuesday. I was in DC on Wednesday. We started to notice some pretty serious issues in the draft text that we had a concern with, and there didn't appear to be a plan to actually get that fixed coming out of a Senate Banking Committee markup. And so we actually felt like we had an obligation to go out and defend our customers' rights and say, we have some issues here. We were careful not to comment on what the Senate should do in terms of markup or not, but they did decide to postpone it. And so now there's an opportunity for us to come back and chat with the bank CEOs and see what would create a win-win outcome here.
So let's walk through some of those issues and also walk through what is a battle taking place between crypto and maybe classic legacy Wall Street here. And then maybe we get into also just the power and influence that you have, whether you believe you have it or not, because every headline last week about this very bill effectively getting temporarily suspended, or at least was about the withdrawal of support that from you, effectively. So you do have more influence maybe than you think. But let's talk about the issues themselves first. Top 3 issues right now for you that were problematic in that bill.
Yeah, so the number one is really around payment of rewards on stablecoins. I think Americans should be able to earn more money on their money. Banks should have to compete on a level playing field, and if the American people feel like the banks are not paying high enough interest rates and stablecoin rewards can offer them more, then maybe the banks should have to pay higher interest rates to compete, right? I don't think there should be any protectionism.
Do you think that was put in directly for the banks, that was lobbied by the banks and put in?
Yes.
And look, the banks argue effectively that the stablecoin market is going to force massive withdrawals that are going to come out of the banks, that it is not an efficient system for credit in America, effectively, because the treasuries that are going to be required to back the stablecoins are not going to be used in the same way. I mean, there are arguments that I think have some validity from the banking system beyond what you think ultimately happens to the banking system and how much you care about the strength or not of it.
Yeah. Well, there is certainly a balance of where should this capital go. I mean, it can go to lending, which is important. It can also go to buying U.S. treasuries, which is also important. And I think that it's essentially going to come down to where can people earn return for the appropriate amount of risk, right? If the Fed lowers interest rates, that would push more people to seeking higher returns from a lending product, right? If they raise interest rates, it's going to keep more money at the Fed. And that's frankly what a lot of banks are doing. They're holding trillions of dollars at the Fed also that's not being lent out. And so I think what we have to realize here is that crypto can provide solutions like rewards and stablecoins. It can also build lending products. Like DeFi lending is growing enormously. Banks can provide that also. And so we should have a level playing field where everyone can compete, clear rules, and everyone can win.
Should you have a level regulatory framework as well? Should you be regulated the very same way the banks are, if that's the plan?
Well, the banks are doing something very different, which is called fractional reserve lending. So they're actually lending out customer deposits without their permission, essentially, right, to earn the spread. And that's what the whole banking, that's why there's such heavy oversight from banking. So under Genius, stablecoin issuers have to hold 100% reserve. It's not fractional reserve. 100% of the assets are in short-term U.S. treasuries. It's very low risk. It's less risky than holding it in a bank.
The DeFi lending would be coming from what money?
That's customers opting into it, and they can say, all right, I actually want to earn more, so I'm going to put my money into this DeFi protocol, and I can get 6 or 7 or 10% return for some appropriate amount of risk. So it's customers opting into it as opposed to
the banks
doing it behind the scenes.
I don't know if you had an opportunity. In our green room is Brian Moynihan, who's coming on right after.
Oh, yeah.
Did you guys have an opportunity to talk? Have you been talking to a lot of the bank leaders here about this very issue? Because I assume he has some pretty, provocative things to
I had
say.
to separate those two. It was
You had to separate.
Brian played rugby in Colorado. Maybe
Good thing David Beckham's in there.
and David
Yeah,
Beckham's
David
there on,
Beckham's
on
yeah.
Brian.
We've got an
Moynihan's.
all-star cast in there, but no, actually, I have been here meeting with bank CEOs. That's one of the main things I'm doing is trying to figure out, okay, what would get them to a yes? I do believe there's a win-win outcome. I mean, by the way, Coinbase is actually providing crypto infrastructure services to 5 of the top 20 banks in the world. And so we're talking with the commercial sides of these banks, and they see it as an opportunity. Their lobbying arms and their trade groups are coming in and trying to ban their competition. And so, to me, you shouldn't be able to ban competition.
What do you make of the larger credit piece, though? Because there's a sort of I don't know, it's philosophical or practical, just about credit in America and treasuries themselves. Because by default, if you actually have to own the treasuries in full to back the stable coins, you're effectively taking them out of the marketplace to be lent in a different way.
Well, this is the same thing that money market funds do, right? It's when banks are holding their reserves overnight at the Fed, that's exactly what they're doing. So this already exists. It has nothing to do with crypto, actually. It's been there for a long time. And there's a lot of deposits that are very interest rate insensitive, right? So in my view, if this legislation goes through, there's going to continue to be that balance with banks and crypto companies. Where can customers earn the best rates and rewards? They're going to choose to put it in lending or in something that is linked to short-term treasuries.
New York Stock Exchange just announced yesterday a new platform that I imagine will compete with you to some degree, a new tokenized platform. Everybody seems to be introducing all sorts of programs that frankly look a lot like things that Coinbase does. And I wonder just what you think the whole industry looks like, a year or 2 or 3 from now in terms of what you're doing relative to what everyone's doing. And by the way, at the same time that you're trying to get into everybody else's business.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I was thrilled to see that. I think New York Stock Exchange announcing their interest in tokenized equities is just one more data point of the crypto is updating the financial system, and we want everyone to be able to do that and make our capital markets more efficient.
But does it take the moat away from everybody's business? If everybody can do the same thing, what happens in the end?
Customers win with competition. I mean, we shouldn't have policies being created in the United States that favor one set of companies over another. There should be clear rules of what's allowed, what's not, and then everyone competes. That's how the customer benefits.
결국 이번 사태의 본질은 하나입니다. 기존 금융권이 암호화폐라는 혁신적인 파도를 막아보려 했지만 결국 그 파도에 올라타지 않고서는 살아남을 수 없다는 것을 증명한 셈이죠. 오늘 인터뷰의 핵심 요약입니다. 첫 번째, 브라이언 암스트롱이 중단시킨 법안의 독소 조항은 은행권의 로비로 만들어진 리워드 지급 금지였습니다. 둘째, 코인베이스는 100% 준비금을 보유한 스테이블 코인이 기존 은행의 대출 시스템보다 훨씬 안전하다는 논리로 맞서고 있습니다. 셋째, 뉴욕 증권거래소까지 토큰화 시장에 참여하는 지금 이제 암호화폐는 거스를 수 없는 금융의 표준이 되고 있습니다. 결국 공정한 운동장이 만들어진다면 승자는 누가 될까요? 답은 이미 정해져 있을지도 모릅니다. 지금 이 비트갱스터 채널은 앞으로도 이런 규제의 사각지대와 거대 자본의 움직임을 가장 빠르게 전달해 드리겠습니다. 오늘 영상이 유익하셨다면 구독과 알림 설정 꼭 부탁드립니다. 여러분은 은행의 이자와 스테이블 코인의 리워드 중 무엇을 더 신뢰하시나요? 여러분들도 여러분들의 생각을 댓글로 공유해주세요. 저는 다음 영상에서 뵙겠습니다. 감사합니다.